this hour, we'll be talking about the importance of owning a house in the aftermath of COVID-19, but also talking about how to live your dream in 7 Ds. We'll be having that discussion shortly. But just before that, let's take a look at our not our scripture, but our quote for the day. This one is by Cicero, and it says, "A room without books is like a body without a soul." I'll read that again. A room without books is like a body without a soul. And that was said by Cicero. All right, well, time now to introduce my next guest. His name is Otieno Peter Paul Peter, and he's an inspirational public speaker, a leadership development coach, and an author. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you, Joyce.
Great to have you here. All right, so we're going to be reviewing one of his books. It's actually called Live Your Dream in 7 Ds, but he's also come with another one of his books that he's going to be giving away, and that book is this one right here. It's called The Making of a Symphony Orchestra, Timeless Leadership. And let me just read for you a bit of the back here. He says that leadership is at the heart of every meaningful success imaginable, and personal development is largely about leadership development. And he, of course, is a passionate leadership trainer who believes in simplicity and practicality of ideas and strategies. And so this book is up for grabs. Stay tuned. In a moment, I'll be giving you information as far as how you can answer whatever question I pose for you today, for you to be able to walk away with this copy. 111-444-111 is the SMS line. But for now, let's see the book that we'll actually be discussing today. And it's this one here, Live Your Dream in 7 Ds. It's called Achieving the Life You Desire, One Step at a Time. And karibu sana to the show once again. And I want to focus on that tagline there, achieving the life you desire, one step at a time. It often feels that many times we don't do it a step at a time, or at least we don't have the patience to pursue it one step at a time. What's your reflection on that?
If we want it, we should be able to do that, unless we don't want it. Okay. You see, if we already have certain dream that we want to achieve, then we've got to take the steps that are necessary to achieve it. Okay. In order to do KCPE, you must start at some class 1 or nursery, whatever, and you move in up to the time you are ready for it. So growth is never sporadic. Growth, even a tree doesn't just jump. It's always some gradual. So it's got to be a step at a time.
Right. Yeah. But how did our culture get so fixated on having everything quickly and instantly? It's like we're all in this race, you know, to kufika wa kwanza, to get there, you know, the fastest or the earliest. How does one, you know, live like that, like the way you're proposing, a step at a time, in the midst of the sort of societal pressure we face today?
Thank you. You know, one problem that most of us have is lack of education, and we say people perish due to lack of knowledge. You see, if you do not know about something, I love to say that ignorance is the greatest liability of mankind. All the pains that we go through is somewhat because we don't know something. Or all the costs that we pay, somewhat it's related to something that we don't know, we are yet to learn. And so people who want to jump steps somewhat believe that there should be shortcuts. But one thing I've learned is, no matter how you try to dodge the line, you're just delaying yourself. You've seen this in supermarkets. You go and you see like the other line is moving faster, and you jump there, then it starts dragging.
Down, right?
The same thing in the traffic. You jump from one lane to the other, but you realize that it doesn't make you any faster. We've got to learn the steps. But what has brought this, again, besides lack of education, is somewhat the wrong examples that we've seen with many leaders that we want to admire. And then they are always out there to talk to us and tell us how fast it should be done. I've learned that if you do it too fast, you'll not appreciate the process.
Okay.
But the success is in the process. It's not in the destination.
Right.
If you don't appreciate the process, you lose it.
I like that. Success is in the process, not in the destination.
Not in the destination.
And indeed, we need to kind of culture our minds towards that idea today. And so maybe you can just give us an outline of what we're going to be discussing when we get back from a break. Can you very quickly, without just going, just maybe list them out for us, what the 7 Ds we will be discussing are?
Yeah, I would list them. One thing I've learned over time also is that sometimes if I just list them like that, people somewhat think they already got the book.
Okay.
Which is absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Those are just taglines
Okay.
that have been used.
All right. Okay. Well, let's not do that then. Let's not do that. Fair point. And so with that said, then I want to ask you guys to let me know what you think is a, maybe actually we can have them guess. Are they actually in D's? Do they start with D's?
Yes.
Okay. That would be interesting. I think I like that. I'm going to ask you guys to guess for me. Okay. What 2 of the D's could possibly be in these 7 D's to be able to live your dream? Does that sound fair?
It's not very fair because they'll Google. And some people have read it.
Okay, so you guys need to do it now because I'm not going to wait for you guys to start, when you've heard the discussion. Whoever SMSs in now, maybe even after the break, we might be awarding this winner. I don't know. We're going to see. 111-444-111 is the SMS line. You can also reach me on social media at SwitchTVKE on Instagram and at SwitchTV Kenya on Facebook and Twitter. And we'll be back here with Otieno Paul Peter after the break. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. And I'm here with my guest. His name is Otieno Paul Peter, and he's a speaker, a leadership development coach, and an author. He does have a book giveaway happening right now on this book here titled The Making of a Symphony Orchestra, Timeless Leadership. And indeed, people are out here guessing because I told you I'm going to be awarding some of the first winners here today. Who can guess what the 7 Ds could possibly be here today. We're going to be discussing 7 Ds. Live your dream in 7 Ds. And I've been asking you guys to guess on what those could possibly be. So are you ready to hear what people have to say? All right. So, wow, there's quite a number here. Let me see. Someone here says, I just asked for 2. Someone says determination, demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
Another says determination and decision. That's Purity from Nairobi. Another says determination and discipline. It's funny, all of them start with determination. I think when we think of D and leadership, that one has to come through. Another says determination, destiny. Another says dream and distinguish. Another says determination, detail. Another says determination, dreams. Another says determination, dedication, and diligence. Another says drive and direction.
Wow.
I don't know. Any of those you want to award?
No.
No.
Okay. None got at least 2. Most of them.
Oh, no.
No, well, there could be somebody who got 2.
There's someone there's someone who got 2.
Somebody said discipline somewhere.
Someone said, do I have discipline?
Look for some discipline. I think I have.
Okay, I have discipline and determination.
Yeah, that sounds close.
That's close. But is it that they're half correct?
No. At least there is something else I say besides determination, but at least we can go with determination.
Okay.
And discipline.
Okay.
So that sounds close.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
I think if you have to give somebody, that's probably the person.
Okay. So I have 2 people who wrote discipline and determination, and the law of life. At this point, we're saying not to rush towards success, but in this series, it's going to matter. And so I'm going to give it to the first person, and that SMS came in at 9:13. You said determination and discipline, so we can award them. Your number starts with 0792, ends with 10. 705. Congratulations to you. You win yourself a copy of this book. Now, if you've not won, please do make sure you're still paying attention, because he's going to be diving into now the 7 Ds for us in this moment. And so let's talk about this. Why live your dream in 7 Ds?
You see, Joyce, my life taught me a lot of other things. When I was growing up, I was not very advantaged, I would say. And the difficulties I went through, somewhat at some point when I reflected back, I managed to summarize them in 7 steps.
Okay.
And that's made me reach where I am. So to speak, in just about 20 years ago, I was somebody you'd call a vagabond. I didn't have a place to live.
Wow.
I didn't have a home. People would ask me, where do you live? And I realized at that point that there are 2 elements to that question, where you eat and where you sleep.
Right.
But then I realized I did not have any constant place. I would sleep where evening finds me,
Wow.
and I would eat wherever I get food. So I did not have an answer. But then at some point I was at that point I was out of school. I wasn't going to school. But all these transformation has happened to the extent that I no longer talk about where to live again or something like that. It's none of my biggest worries. I don't think from the village to having a house in Nairobi to living the life of my dream, at least for the time being, I think there was something I could share. And based on, people started nudging me and pushing me. Why? Because I would talk to people, I would give talks, then they would ask, do you have some materials? You'd live with us? I said, no, you've got to start writing something. Okay. And I remember a friend called Julius. Julius told me, this year you must start writing. And I had to start, and I staged them into 7 steps.
Okay.
Those 7 steps, I call them 7 Ds.
All
and so that summarizes, under those subtitles, under those headings, I've been able to make that the title for the book.
All right.
Live Your Dream in
Fantastic.
7 Ds.
Fantastic. And congratulations to you for showing people that indeed it is possible to rise from what was your situation then and to, carve an entirely new future. And so let's get to the first one. What would be the first D then?
The first D, which is very crucial, and it's the very first step, is to have a dream. So the first one is a dream. People who said dream, at least they got one. Most people don't have dreams. They don't even have what it takes. They don't even know what they are looking for in life. And so they live a pity party life. So under that subheading, I discuss lots of things, including creating something from nothing, including how to clarify your dream, how to get into... You see, somebody talked about, I think when you were discussing with somebody, you were responding to some question and you were telling them to also take initiative and things like that. And people responded to something to do with, I must have inferred something to do with purpose also. That is the chapter where I also relate with success or the dream with your purpose in life and how to identify it. So this element of dream is the starting point.
Okay.
We've got to know where we're going. If we do not know where we're going, we probably won't reach there because we won't even know the direction. Yeah. So the first chapter deals with this element of dream, this element of the predetermined goal that you want to achieve, and how you can get it clarified. Because one thing I've learned in life, if it is not clear in your mind, you're probably not going to get it.
Okay.
And that's why I started, I think at the first pages I start with, why do we get what we don't want?
Okay.
You'll notice that most times we get only what we don't want. But we don't get what we want.
Wow.
Yes. People will get married to where they don't want to be married, but the people they don't want. They get the results out of exams which they don't want. They live in places they don't want. Somewhat, it is what we don't want that
we get.
Tends to conspire.
Why is
the
that?
Same reason we get weeds, more weeds than the plants. We plant what we want, but then we get more weeds. The universe somewhat is organized like that.
Okay.
You see, and how do we get rid of this? We've got to start weeding what we don't want.
Okay.
And that means we've got to be clear about this is what I want, this is what I don't want.
Okay.
So if we don't learn that weeding element, then we stay with what we don't want, and somewhat they keep coming.
Very well said. Let's move on to determination. And here you talk about many things, solving problems, how your thoughts become things, guts and glory. Summarize determination for us.
This is the chapter where I start doing what I love doing, keeping people, giving you what it takes to reach the predetermined goal, the predetermined dream. And so it has a lot to do with emotional intelligence.
Okay.
How do you regulate your emotions? How do you, because problems are bound to be there. There is no straight route to success. In fact, somebody said if there were shortcuts to success, they would be the main routes. They wouldn't be called shortcuts. Yeah, we would be reinventing other shortcuts. So this is where we deal with what on your side, or how do you start transforming yourself? Because life happens like this. We've got to be before we get, or before we do and then get. So this is now where we are starting to transform ourselves to being the person who should be able to achieve the goal that you want.
Okay. Wow. All right. So far we've covered dream and determination, and then of course there's discipline. And
I like the word we've discovered. We've covered. At least we've mentioned what they are. Yes.
So now let's talk about discipline. And I don't think there's anybody in life who's been successful in anything, whether you're a musician, a fitness person, a business person, who hasn't been disciplined.
You can tell us what discipline means to you.
Me?
Yes.
No, I'm not interviewing you here. What has happened here?
I like teaching.
I was like, guys, taking over my show.
You see, it's a word.
Hapo umecheka sana by the way, Otieno Paul.
You're the one. You see, let me tell you one thing. Back in secondary school, around Form 1, Form 2, I struggled with the word discipline.
Okay.
Because I would come across two words, obedience and discipline.
Right.
And that's the time you're trying to discover yourself. And you do not know, should I go with discipline or obedience? And it took me quite some time trying to digest what does it mean to be obedient and what does it mean to be disciplined. And then I realized those are two different things, and most times opposing each other. Yeah, and I had to choose the kind of person I am. I had to choose discipline. So discipline in this case.
Why is that distinct from obedience?
Obedience, in my understanding, simply meant you obey the authority, and whatever they tell you, you trust it. You don't question. Check the disciplined forces. They say the disciplined group, the police officers, the soldiers. You just given an order. Go shoot those guys demonstrating. You don't question. It's not in your powers. You're just implementing what you're told. But somebody who is disciplined will always make judgment and say what is right and what's wrong. And they choose to do what is right, whether they feel like doing it or not. Because it's the right thing to do.
All right. I guess I look at discipline also as focus, like, drive and consistent application of what you want to do. So that's another interpretation.
I love the word focus, because part of what I'm dealing with in that chapter is how do you discipline your focus? How do you discipline your emotions? How do you discipline in your activities, including your finances? Because there is no way you're going to grow or live your dream if you're not disciplined in your finances. How do you discipline your habits with respect to diet, with respect to your health? Because you cannot live your dream if you're not healthy. Yes, and all sorts of disciplines.
Sure.
So
you talk about a personal development regimen under discipline. What does that mean?
You must have a program for yourself. You must have something through which you grow. What is personal development? Should be growing as a person. I love asking people, let's check from January, the beginning of this year. I love saying this, that on 31st, of December, everyone is excited. They're celebrating. Some people go through the night because they've finished a year. The question is, what did they accomplish? You see, and they expect that the new year is going to be great. Yes, we are optimistic in this new year. It doesn't work on hope only or optimism. If we do not grow in that period, then results are going to be the same. And so, if you are the same person you were in January 1st, and then you expect life to change up to today, it can't change.
Right.
Because things change when we change.
I
So
like
that
that.
personal development
Yeah.
means we are growing, we are changing, we are becoming more valuable in the marketplace.
I like how you've put it, that I think, oftentimes at the end of the year, we are celebrating the end of the year, as in almost in the sense of running away from it and saying, this brand new year, I can't wait to start afresh.
Thank you.
But really our perspective should be, let's celebrate what we've done also in the year. And if you're feeling like you don't have much to celebrate, then hopefully in the following year you're now more purposed, more disciplined, more determined
Some
to
year
actually
ago,
have something to celebrate at the end
actually,
of the
some
year.
year ago, when I went to church on the 31st, I had some old man pray bitterly about how worse the previous year was. I think that was the beginning of 2019. So it was 2018, and 2018 had been really dramatic in Kenya. And there was a lot of cry and, oh, Baba, that year was really bad. Thank you, it's over. We hope that the next one is going to be great. 2019, let me tell you, the years are always the same. We are the people who can change. And if we don't change, we are going to repeat the same script. And so if you are crying, you see, today people are talking about Corona. And by the way, part of that element of that dream, I usually help people to understand. Why can't you, why do you even get that Corona and things like that, and even get to succumb from it? Because we've not changed. We've got to grow as individuals. We've got to master our emotions, know how we are manning our minds in order to be able to achieve the results that we want. Discipline is a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. So far we've covered dream, determination, and discipline. And then you have here disappointment. I like this. And part of what you have here is understanding that it is a way of, or you call it a way of life, and the importance of having shock absorbers. I see here you say your source of fuel, also asking for help, and disappoint the disappointments. Very interesting. Tell me a bit about this chapter.
This is the chapter where we learn how to disappoint the disappointment. We learn how to make use of what we just learned in the previous chapter called discipline, to disappoint the disappointment using our discipline.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, you will be disappointed many times. In fact, by the people whom you expect. That takes me back to the participant who asked that there are people, he or she is lacking opportunity, people not seeing, and you are saying they need to display it. Now, one thing I've learned in life, the people you expect to help you will never, okay, let me not use never, but let me use hardly, but I love the word never because I've experienced it. You'll say, oh, my big uncle is there, he's got this much money, whatever. The other day I had some people who organized big wedding and committed lots of money, I don't know, 2-3 millions, and they called friends and big people with big banks, and they expected that it's going to all pay off.
Yeah.
And these people came with cards. Now, not money. So
Kwanza si kazi ya watu kufanyia harusi kubwa. Let's
so
start there.
people will disappoint you, all of them, family members, friends, whatever. People will disappoint you because your dream is not their dream.
Yeah.
And they don't have to understand it, by the way. And it's not that they want to. Sometimes it's just because that's the way life is, and sometimes it's because that's what they think is good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be a musician, for example, and you feel it in your heart, and you feel that is your calling, but your parents will tell you, what the heck do you mean by music? Go do engineering. And you feel like, well, but this is my passion. What do you mean by passion? Go do. And by the end of the day, you're disappointed in your engineering and everything else. And you are waiting to get somebody to tell you, start writing music. No, just start wherever you are in engineering. The reason I'm doing the symphony orchestra, which is musical, and its leadership, is because I understand music. So people will disappoint you. How do you handle that disappointment?
Okay.
How do you handle failure? How do
Okay.
you solve your own disappointments?
All right. Well, I have just a couple minutes left, so I need to breeze through these next three.
Yeah.
But you have detour, and you
Yeah.
talk about the give principle very quickly. Detour.
Yeah. Give principle I won't talk about. It's a little more elaborate,
Okay.
and it's somewhat giving. It's one of the tools that I give for you to be able to focus.
Okay.
Now, detour simply means what it means. You detour. This is the goal, but some short excitements will come in along the way, and you're likely to lose focus on where you are going. And you also need to know about that and learn how to deal with it.
Okay.
Because that is the time people will, you'll get some other promotion, you'll get some other thing, maybe you are planning this particular venture, but then maybe you'll be given another job.
Okay.
You see?
So be
And
flexible.
Yeah, not be flexible.
Be what?
Yes. Know about the detour. Remember, it's not your dream.
Uh-huh.
You're focused on your dream. You want to
Right.
live your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of the tests that are going to come your way are small excitements that are temporal.
Okay.
And by the end of the day, you lose focus of wherever you are going.
So you're saying, okay.
Yes. You must learn that detours are there. You must deal with them. And where need be, if you need to change a route, as long as you don't change your goal.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I mean. So be
Yes.
flexible in adjusting how
Yes.
you get there.
You
or
study
how
the
fast
situation.
You get there,
Yes.
but you're still
Yes.
focused on the
Yeah.
goal. Absolutely. Okay. Finally, we have detox and dream again.
Yeah, detox has to do with also a lot of things you need to do for yourself. You're detoxifying. You're taking, you're getting out the toxins in your body, in your relationship, in your generally life. Because you know, by the, this book has a lot to do with emotions, and you know you will not achieve much if you have a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
People taking you here and there, all sorts of unhealthy relationships and things like that. So it has a lot to do with how do you get rid of that detox, of those elements that are not contributing towards where you're going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the final one was to dream again. So we
Yes.
started off with the dream.
Yes.
And at the end of it, you dream again.
Yes, because you can't stop. If you stop, then you finish your work on earth, and ideally you should die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there
most
should be
people
more-
who've finished and they say I've reached, I've achieved everything I wanted to do, most times they die shortly, unfortunately. so, so for you to keep living, and that's why we started by talking about your mission in life.
Okay.
Now there is an element of success there where I define success. I pick from two people. One is somebody called Ron Nightingale or Al Nightingale, and he says progressive realization of a predetermined worthy ideal.
Okay.
And the other one is knowing your purpose in life, and that's why we were trying to learn about purpose. How do you identify your purpose? Then growing to your marks. Now, suppose you are a teacher, and you could teach 1,000 people, and then you reach 200 people, then it means you've failed. So you must
Okay.
keep growing, and expanding your territory. Part of where I'm talking about goals, I talk about expandability.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
you keep
I
dreaming.
see here you have a background, a Bachelor of Science in Physics. So I know you can go on and on and on, just kind of helping us to really find these linkages and explanations to things. But I really want to thank you for coming. I think this has been a great discussion on understanding these 7 Ds. This is quite a book, guys. I mean, he's really spent time writing this. It is about almost 200 pages of really great content for you guys. How can they find this book?
This book, by the way, to be honest, this is perhaps, in my view, I say, even if I had nothing else and I left it for my children,
Okay.
this is enough to take them wherever they want to go.
Wow, that's
It's a
great.
good book. It's simple in
That's
the
great.
simplest language.
Yeah.
It's available currently on Amazon and
Okay.
Kindle.
Okay.
Yeah, e-copies are on Kindle,
Okay.
just about 300 bob.
Okay.
They can download on their tablets or
Yeah.
whatever. They'll
Okay.
be able to read it. On Amazon, it's around $13.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming onto the show and sharing these 7 Ds with us. Hopefully, we've challenged enough people to be able to live out their dreams and to keep dreaming. So, asante sana. And your social media, can people reach you there?
Yes. Otieno Paul Peter everywhere you
Okay.
look for, or if you Google, I have a website called Otieno Paul Peter.
Okay.
It has all my contacts.
Asante sana.
Whether Instagram, Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn, Otieno Paul Peter.
All right.
That is.
Thank you very much for coming. We do appreciate your time. And with that said, I do need to take a break now very quickly. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about the importance of owning a house in the aftermath of COVID-19. 111 is the SMS line. I'll be back after this. All right, guys, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Time now for our final segment of the day. This Monday, we are setting off your day right. We've talked about, ways to live out your dream through 7 Ds. We looked at Queen Esther just challenging us in the morning. We've also talked about multitasking with your gifts and your talents. And now we want to talk about home ownership. And I know, in a season like this one, this conversation, some of you are probably like, hey, Joyce, atakama ni Monday inspiration. It is true. Yes, we need to talk about these things that we can plan ourselves and get ourselves ahead, in the right way. And here with us, we have Judith Kalamu from how do you say it?
Emmaus Properties.
Emmaus Properties.
Yes.
And we want to talk about the importance of owning a house in the aftermath of COVID-19. And I know, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I know it almost seems like not the conversation to prioritize in this season.
Correct.
But it is one that we should be talking about.
Yes.
We've seen people having to move, from where they're staying because they can no longer afford rent. And perhaps if, we plan ourselves better, we are able to avoid such situations in future.
That's very true.
Many of us Kenyans, live in rentals. I think very few Kenyans actually own a home for themselves. And so, and even when you're looking at jobs and income loss and etc., it seems very far-fetched to be thinking, how do I even start owning a house?
Yes. I think this is a conversation, as you've said. Right now, if you went to talk to any Kenyan and talk to them about home ownership, they'll tell you, wait. But the reality is when Corona happened, we all had to go home. People had to recline back and go back to their homes. And when you found yourself at home, you'd give it time, and you had to wait to hear from your source of income what would happen next. And unfortunately, a lot of people lost their jobs and they found themselves in the same rental spaces and they did not know what to do next. However, there's somebody who had to go back home and they were in their home. And so when they are going through the hurdles of just trying to figure out how they'll get food, the comfort was that they were in their homes. And so the conversation we need to start is not directly getting into a house that is already there. It's a conversation that even somebody who's at the university level needs to be sat down to be told. If somebody talked to us back then when we were at the university and helped us to know what to prioritize, by the time you finish campus, probably we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Right.
And the reason why most Kenyans are struggling, if I look at the parents that we had, all of us, a majority of us were living in their homes, whether it's up country, whether it's in Nairobi. We did not have that kind of an influx that we have today. Of course, there was migration from the rural to the urban centers in search of employment and all that. But all the people who came before our time, they came with a mindset of knowing that I am preparing for a home, whether it's up country, whether it's in Nairobi, wherever it is. And so this conversation begins in what are the options that you would have, whether you're in the university, figuring your way into the working world. What options do you have? What conversations should you start engaging in? And in this season, we have found ourselves sitting with customers and helping them to start that journey.
That's great.
Yes.
And let's start actually with the university students, because you're saying you certainly, and I agree with you.
Yes.
I think a lot of conversations about finance and money management should be starting a lot earlier.
Correct.
There's been many reasons why it hasn't, including the fact that I think for many young people today, they're the ones who are in the city and they're the ones sort of sending, remittances back to their families at home.
Yes.
And so for a university student,
Yes.
many of whom might actually be watching the show right now, where do they start when we're thinking about home ownership? Because Sujui, I don't know how you guys leave college and university. Hopefully you're not in debt, just from my yanks and that sort of thing. But like, are you actually thinking about your future and your finances? And this is at a point where maybe someone hasn't even been employed yet.
True.
So are there sort of things that as you're looking for a job, as you're negotiating a package,
Yes.
that you should start asking for, negotiating as part of your package? Or how do you have this discussion with,
Yes.
a university student?
Well, by the time you get to your third year, this is now when you should begin this conversation. Because at that time, you have started your studies and you're beginning to see yourself in a space. You're beginning to see yourself working in a certain environment. Now, at that time, maybe you've even taken a student loan. Somebody needs to sit you down at that point and help you know that it is of utmost importance for you to get a job to begin to pay off that loan. Now, if you do not have any loans, count yourself blessed, but don't waste that opportunity. The little money a student at the university gets, for me, I actually think they get a lot of money because everybody's dishing money on your pocket. Begin to learn a saving culture. Because the first option you will have when you finish university will be renting. You will not immediately be able to even negotiate home ownership with anybody. No employer wants to even promise you anything like that. They want to see what you can deliver first of all.
Yeah.
So the first option you will have will be renting. And the university students or any person who's entering into the space needs to know that while you're renting, it is of utmost importance for you to get into a saving culture. Because the time you will think about getting into home ownership, those savings will need to be in place. You will enter into a bank and they will ask for 10%. And I have seen many people prioritizing that as the main saving that they are getting for a 10% to be able to just acquire property. But if you speak to an expert and you are already struggling 2 years in to raise 10%, there's a high possibility you won't be able to meet the 90% in the given time that you've been given by a bank or by a SACCO. So as a student, begin to save now. Begin to have small wins. Don't think the house first. Think of the various options that are there in real estate because it's not always a house, but it's a journey that can get you to a house. So save up and start small. Start where you can afford.
Okay.
Be realistic with your finances.
For those who maybe missed that opportunity, that bus left them a long
Yes.
time ago, and they didn't actually get to save when they were younger. Maybe they're now in their 30s and are finally sort of beginning to settle and find some sort of rhythm to life. And hopefully we can, let's not say it's too late,
Yes.
but they've just started a bit later.
Yes.
How can they be sort of maneuvering this now as far as finding a house? And I think even as we talk about rentals, maybe you can touch on the importance of living within your means.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing. People are out here trying to keep up with the Joneses and just
Yes.
struggling.
Yes, that's true.
Not necessary.
A majority of Kenyans, including myself probably, we were left by that bus a long time ago. And while we were studying, probably we got the loans and we imagined that maybe your parents would come and settle those bills for you. And you get into the working world and you're chasing the wrong things. You want to drive a car before you settle your other obligations. Then the kids check in and now you're stranded. I always tell people, for as long as you woke up this morning, that means God has still a plan for you. And you have to now sit down with yourself and get serious. If you're renting a premise and you are already maybe even in your 40s and you don't even know where to start, the first thing you need to do is sit down and look at your finances. Be honest with yourself and begin to downsize. The government itself channeled the budget on a different road. They did not take the route that they normally take. We were able to see the budget being split in a way that health was benefiting more because the needs were going there. So similarly, individually, begin to do that to your budget. And then when you move from there, look at the season that we are in. In real estate, it's not always that you can just get into the space and just buy. We have a buyer's market and we have a seller's market. And how that works is when the demand is high for property, when people want to buy, there seems to be less supply. And then that then dictates the pricing. So the prices go up. But at a time as this, when there's corona, you find that there's oversupply. The properties are out there, people are selling, but very few people are buying. So this then begins to bring a price correction in the market. So when you look at the timing that we are in, if we're in that timing when the market, the prices are very high, that would be the best time for you to hold your money, keep saving your money, to wait for the opportunity. And then the third thing is the options that you have. Many people think I'm late. you're never late. There are very many options for you to own a home. And I wanted to touch on a few, about
Sure.
6 that could help you get there.
Okay.
Assuming that you are also lucky and you got money and you had stashed some money, look at the season. If the season is right, get in and get that investment. And that is a cash option, sorry. Then the second option would be walking into a company that is, or somebody who's selling the property, and negotiating an installment plan with them. Today you find that many people are not able to get those mortgages or even the loans with the banks because of one reason or the other. Maybe you're already servicing another loan, but with you have some money that you can get from maybe your side hustles that the bank is not recognizing. So when you walk into these companies, negotiate an installment plan. They can stretch these payments for you and you're able to make, gradual payments. And at the same time, you can begin with just land. You can just say, you know what, I can buy land and build later. That's a buy and build option. So begin to scout and look for properties in areas where you can be able to live in the future. And start there because you don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you go that step, get a property that you can afford. Again, land can also be very expensive. So go to an area where you can afford, get that property, move from ownership of the land, then begin to build.
Okay.
And then another option is when you realize that all these other options cannot work right now for you. You don't even have the cash. You're in that bracket where things were working. You had a mortgage and you are servicing it well, but you got the phone call and you are retrenched along with everyone else. And that is already bringing a mismatch to you. Sit with an expert, go back to the institution that lent you money and look for ways on how you can either resell this property and win your money back and get something cheaper. Look for an option where you get back into the market. A lot of people have found themselves in a very disadvantaged side and they think it's the end of the road. No, it's not. You can still, if you are the same person who did what you did, you can do it elsewhere. So find, as you are trying to bounce back into the working world or into your business, begin to work these assets that you have. Are you able to get an equity release from the bank with the property that you have? Had you bought a property, lost your job, and now your house can fetch you even 200,000, move into a smaller house, rent. A lot of people when they hear rent, they assume it's the people who have done the wrong things that found themselves renting. I have seen people who own properties and they have gone back to rent because their house can fetch them money.
More.
Yes.
And maybe more than their rent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you are paying rent, perhaps you are doing the right thing, you are saving, because there are people who are in the process of saving in order to acquire property. If that has happened to you, sit down and just balance your money again. Restructure. Look at where you're spending. Cut those costs. If you have to move to a smaller house, do it because you have a goal that you want to meet. And then the last thing would be where now you are able to take the assets that you have. You don't have to sell them, but get something against them.
Okay.
You can go into a bank, what I've just briefly talked about, which is an equity release. Maybe your business is not doing well, and we're in a season where things are beginning to pick up. You can go into the bank, borrow some money against the property that you have. And this, I think, is the advantage that most of the people who have properties have had over the people who do not have.
Okay.
And a lesson for anybody who is renting, I'm actually sending a message of hope to everyone. You could have done everything wrong. You could have bought those big cars. You could have lived like the Joneses and you really wasted money. All I can tell you is, even if you are doing the right thing, Corona was not looking for the ones who are doing the
That's
wrong
right,
thing.
yeah.
There are people who are doing the right thing and it affected them. They can't tell you where the money has gone to, but the money is gone. So in as much as your money is gone, but you have strength, get back to it.
Okay.
Yes.
And so talking about, taking you back a little bit, because you talked about seasons to actually dive in and make an investment.
Yes.
And I guess a lot of people struggle with, to own a home or to have other property, and I think people struggle with trying to figure out what is the right investment. And I don't know if you have anything to say to that as far as investing in owning a home versus a shamba.
Okay. Both, I'll say, they're very important. Owning a home is not something you just wake up and say, I'm going to get that house, even if it's going for 2 million or 3 million. This is something that you must be serious about because you can easily put in your money or start that journey, and along the way you lose it and you lose it all. So owning a home is more technical than just buying a shamba. I normally tell people, if you've never done it, try the simple way first, because even after you get that house, you may need that shamba. So look for something that is affordable as a starter. Even most people who I talk to who have owned homes, they say my first house was a 1-bedroom house or it was a studio. So you start chewing with what really your finances can handle. A shamba is something that can also work for you. But you need to ask yourself is, what are you getting into and why are you getting into it? Are you in a place where you're really pressed and you must get inside that house? Yes, the house will be the biggest priority that you'll have at that time.
Okay.
Are you in a place where you're comfortable, or you have had that home and you're thinking, what do I do next with my money? I still have a surplus. Begin to acquire that land, because that land is going to appreciate in value in the future. If you don't have a place to rest your head and you don't have security and backup, you want to acquire the assets that you can afford at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And for those who maybe, as you said, there are those who started off with maybe a studio, they moved
Yes.
to a 1-bedroom and
Yes.
whatnot, and they may also be questioning if now is the time to invest. You
Yes.
know, that's the question for the day. Should we be, investing in property right now?
Yes.
What do you say to the ones who are concerned about, there was this big boom over the last 3 years
Yes.
of property and
Yes.
Nairobi has just become a concrete jungle.
Yes.
Right? And then you have to pause and wonder, but who is going to be living in these houses? And especially when now in a season like this one with COVID, a lot of us are asking, is this a right investment? So that even if I've secured like a small place somewhere
Yes.
and now I want to do this for investment,
Yes.
is it still the way to go? Considering, you have to be thinking of who's going to be renting the houses.
Yes.
Can they afford it? What would you say to that?
So that's a conversation for an investor. And I'll tell you, the last 3 years, what we have experienced in the nation is not new, especially to developers who have been in the industry for over 10 years. We have what is called the buyer's market and the seller's market. And unfortunately for many Kenyans, they were not aware that we were actually in a buyer's market. And a buyer's market is where the one who is buying is at an advantage, but the one who is constructing is the one who's at the pinch. So what happens in this season is where there's an oversupply. And that's why you are seeing so many developments coming up. But I'll tell you, that is also strategic for the contractors, the people who are doing this work, because they know we are about to come out of this space.
Yeah.
And the next space is going to be a seller's market, where now a lot of people will be interested in buying the properties. So when is the best time to invest? For somebody who's investing, the buyer's market. And I'll tell you this, it's not because of Corona for real estate in Kenya.
Okay.
This struggle began, we are winding the 7-year cycle.
Yeah.
And what we'll have after Corona will be an election. So somebody who wants to invest so that the investment gives them money, this is the time you want to buy, because you will buy it at the right price.
Right.
When you buy at the seller's market, the prices are going to be high. By the
Right.
time you realize that investment, it will take longer.
Okay.
Yes.
So tujikaze.
Tujikaze,
Now
let's
is
go
the
in
time.
there. And I'll tell you something I've looked at the whole year. This whole year, when the year started, it was very uncertain. For the investors, it became very scary.
Yeah.
You would walk into the malls and they look like jungles. Nobody's there.
Yeah.
But right now, what I'm seeing in the third and the fourth quarter is that Kenyans are coming out again. And the Kenyan spirit is coming out, and it's an exciting time also.
Wow.
Yeah.
Judith, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
also.
onto the show once again.
Thank you.
And just sharing this with us and challenging us.
Yes.
Dream big and keep dreaming and keep working hard at it, and be disciplined with your
Sure.
savings and your finances.
Sure.
Very important conversation to
Sure.
have, as hard and as scary as it may sound.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that. How can people reach you?
You can reach us on our Instagram handles at Emmaus Properties. On Facebook, you can reach us at Emmaus Affordable Homes and Properties.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
also.
thank you to you guys for watching the show this Monday morning. Asanteni sana for all of your company and your feedback and your comments. Let's meet here tomorrow for even more Full Circle with Joyce. Until then, God bless you and have yourselves a wonderful start to the week. Ciao.